Students often have questions about precisely how to use language. I'm going to attempt to answer some of those questions in this video. Some of these are relevant to this week, some of them are from other weeks, so I've grouped them all together here. Terms starting with trans. At the top we have the most correct modern terms. Transgender is an umbrella term, meaning it refers to a large number of different people. We've got trans women, trans men, gender fluid, gender queer, and MB, that's slang for non-binary people, all within that umbrella. An older term that's going out of use is transsexual. That refers to people that have had gender confirmation surgery, meaning transsexual people are underneath the transgender umbrella. Increasingly, transgender people don't see whether they've had surgery or not as anyone else's business. That's why it's going out of use, but you will see people of an older generation still using it. Then we have transvestite, a term that's barely used at all anymore. This referred to people that wore the opposite sex clothes, and this grouped people together, including transgender people, people who would wear clothes for performance, drag performers, and people who would wear them as part of a sexual fetish. And those people have very little in common apart from this and don't generally need a group term, so that's also no longer used. You will see people use the words transgendered by mistake. It's an error. First of all, it's just an unnecessary addition of a syllable to transgender, but it also suggests that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, something that happened to someone that made them trans, that it's, like an illness. You wouldn't refer to someone as having been lesbianed, for example. And then there's the T slur that you should not use. Then we've got words that start fem. Femininity, feminine, and femme all refer to the gender presentation. Female refers to biological sex. And then feminism or feminist refers to a political movement, so people who believe in equality of the sexes or an opinion. So that's different from someone who just presents in a female way, which is what feminine means. Then we have words starting with social. Socialization is the process of learning social constructions. A society is a large group with some degree of shared culture and connection. The social structure is the way a society is organized, and then sociology is what we're doing here. It's the study of all of that stuff. Some terms used for race. Increasingly, the correct term is black. African American is still used, although on the way out, it appears. Incorrect is to refer to blacks or the blacks. Shouldn't do that. Then for people who are not black but also are not white, we have the term people of color. Sometimes that includes black people, but more typically it refers to non-black people of color. And that's why we have the acronym BIPOC, B-I-P-O-C, meaning Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, so the group for all of those folks. Incorrect is colored people, or just colored is also incorrect. Also out of fashion is minorities, because that refers to a numerical thing that just often isn't true. For Native Americans, there's a lot of correct terms, and it will depend on the person. Generally, people's preference is referred to by the tribe or nation that they're from, right? Whether they're Sioux or what have you. But if you don't know that, then Native American, American Indian, or Indigenous American can all be correct, and people, of course, have their own preferences, and you should follow those. Intersex is having biological sex characteristics which are outside the traditional male or female gender binary. Intersect, and that connects to intersectionality, which we're going to talk about next week, is the combination of two different identities, for example, sex and race. These sound very similar, but they mean very different things, so make sure you're using them correctly. Hope this clarifies things, and feel free to contact me if you have questions or bring them up in class about what different terms mean.